Picture this. You're a government contractor and you've just been hit with a False Claims Act case. What do? This is where understanding the False Claims Act, or FCA, comes into play. The FCA imposes liability on those who defraud the federal government, typically contractors. It primarily does this through a unique enforcement scheme known as qui tam. In this setup, private whistleblowers can file FCA suits on behalf of the government. Now, the government can choose to intervene and take control of the case, or allow the whistleblower to proceed independently. But remember, the government can always intervene later if needed. If the whistleblower prevails, they can receive between 15 to 30% of the recovery. Understanding the False Claims Act is crucial for any government contractor. Let's delve into what the prosecution must prove in court. In a False Claims Act case, the government must establish 4 elements to prove a violation of the act. First, the government must demonstrate that the contractor made a false statement or engaged in a fraudulent course of conduct. This could be something as overt as falsifying a document or as subtle as omitting crucial information. It's not just about deception, but also about misrepresentation. The second element is scienter, or the contractor's knowledge of the falsehood. This is often a bit more challenging to prove, as it delves into the contractor's state of mind. It's not enough to show that the contractor made a false statement. The government must also demonstrate that the contractor knew it was false, or acted with reckless disregard or deliberate ignorance of the truth. Now, the third element is where things get really interesting: materiality. The government must show that the false statement or fraudulent conduct was material to its decision to pay the contractor. Simply put, the false statement or conduct must have been a significant factor in the government's decision to pay out. This is often a hotly contested point in court, with the government attorney having to demonstrate that the government wouldn't have paid had it known the truth. Finally, the fourth element is causation. The government must show that the false statement or fraudulent conduct caused it to pay out money or forfeit monies due. Essentially, the government needs to connect the dots between the falsehood and the financial loss it suffered. These 4 elements form the core of a False Claims Act case. But what does this mean for you as a contractor? Well, understanding these elements is the first step in building a robust defense. Whether you're facing civil investigative demands or subpoenas, having a grasp of these elements can help you navigate the legal terrain and potentially challenge the government's case. So remember, a false statement, knowledge of the falsehood, materiality, and causation. These are the 4 pillars that uphold a False Claims Act case. Facing a False Claims Act case can feel like an uphill battle, but understanding the elements that the government must prove can give you a fighting chance. Let's break it down. First, it's imperative to establish your legal defense as early as possible. The sooner you can start building your case, the better. This involves gathering evidence, consulting with legal counsel, and preparing a strategic defense. Just as important is understanding the role of civil investigative demands, or CIDs, and subpoenas. These are tools used by the government to build its case against you. They can request documents, compel testimony, and more. But don't be alarmed. They also provide a glimpse into the government's strategy, giving you the opportunity to prepare a comprehensive defense. Now, let's talk about some hope. While defending a False Claims Act case can be costly and daunting, it's not impossible to come out on top. Take the case of United States ex rel Polanski v. Executive Health Resources, Inc., for example. This case brought to light the importance of materiality, one of the 4 elements the government must prove. It showed us that not every regulatory violation leads to liability under the False Claims Act. The government must demonstrate that the false statement or fraudulent conduct was integral to its decision to pay the claim. This often contested point can be a ray of hope for contractors facing a False Claims Act case. So, what does all this mean for you? It means that with a well-prepared defense, a deep understanding of the False Claims Act, and the right legal counsel, you can effectively defend against a False Claims Act case. It might seem overwhelming, but remember, you're not alone. There are experienced attorneys who specialize in this area of law and are ready to stand by your side. Remember, the key to defending against a False Claims Act case is understanding the act itself and establishing a strong legal defense as early as possible.